My name is Dan Genovese, product manager at OMG Roofing Products, the inventors of the game-changing roofing system known as RhinoBond. And this is the Metal Rhino Podcast, where we talk everything metal. Not heavy metal, but instead RhinoBond for standing seam metal retrofit roofing. We are honored here today to have Trevor Larimore from Trevco Roofing in Olive Branch, Mississippi. And we're going to talk about Olive Branch, Mississippi in a little while. But, looking at your website, Trevor, you are a fourth generation roofer from Trevco Roofing, right?
Yes, sir.
So does that mean your grandfather or great-grandfather started this?
My great-grandfather started it, and his son went into the roofing business. And then my dad, who married into the family, got into the business, didn't have nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. And I didn't pay attention to school either, didn't listen to my mom, become a doctor, and became a roofer as well. So here we are.
Excellent. What year was it, would you say that they started the company? Give me a year.
My great-grandfather started in the mid-70s. I don't know exactly which year it was. He was a painting contractor and got into built-up roofing as well at the behest of some customers he had at the time. And he hired some guys. He was already, a middle-aged man at that time. And so he hired some guys who knew how to roof and kind of figured it out as he went. And then my grandfather got into it. And so my parents kind of took over around 1989. And
okay.
They changed the name to Trevco Contractors, which is a combination of my first and middle name, Trevor Cole. And so everybody likes to kid with me. I had no other options but to get into the business. Obviously, it was named after me. So here I am.
It's the roofing world is a lot of generational handoffs, which is great because it's a great industry, and we do see a lot of that. So congratulations, and let's see if we can keep this going, right?
Sounds good.
All right. So we're here today to talk about RhinoBond and metal retrofits. And just in general, how long have you been doing RhinoBond? Because I noticed on your website, right, you not only list some of the manufacturers you work with, but you also list RhinoBond as a highlight of your business. So how long have you been using RhinoBond in general?
I think we bought our first RhinoBond machine around 10 years ago. And I think we have 3 currently at this time. But yeah, we saw a demonstration at a distributor one day for the RhinoBond system, and I was like, man, that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
All right.
And we at the time did a lot of mechanically attached systems and occasional metal retrofit, and just saw the value in the technology and the technique, and kind of immediately got on board. I think we ordered a machine the day that we saw that demonstration. So
okay, well, it's interesting that the world of roofing just continues to evolve. I mean, you've seen it, your family's seen it, and here we are in the 21st century doing something called RhinoBond. So that's fantastic. I want to talk about today. You had posted recently on Facebook, on your Facebook company page, a project that you were able to, a metal retrofit roofing, you were able to pound out in one day.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So take us back. What was up with that job? Did the building owner come to you, or is this something you've been dealing with this particular owner for a while?
No, actually, that owner was referred to us by his tenant, which was a friend of mine. He came to us, said, hey, I've got several roof leaks. Can you take a look at it? And we went out there cold, never seen the building before, looked at it. It was a pretty typical pre-engineered metal building, had kind of typical pre-engineered metal building problems that are 30 years old. That particular one had internal gutters and a parapet wall. The gutters were rotted out, had holes in them. Just general problems. They had fasteners that were leaking. They had joints in the metal that were leaking, flashing issues, various problems. And, some of the typical problems you see with pre-engineered metal buildings that are using parapet walls and internal gutter systems, it's all held together with screws and butyl tape and a lot of caulk, and
Yeah.
that doesn't age well. And then especially when nobody cleans gutters out, you have typical problems. So I looked at that, and kind of my operating procedure with these types of buildings is to just right out the gate offer them a retrofit system and just price it that way. I have spent way too much time in my life trying to chase down roof leaks on metal buildings. And then people wind up spending money and it doesn't fix the problem. And a lot of times it's design issues that you just really can't overcome without performing a retrofit, a single ply retrofit. So that's kind of the best way as far as liability for the roofer goes, is to propose approaching it from a better angle instead of saying, hey, look, we're going to go in and replace all your fasteners and we're going to, replace panels and do all these things. They're not great systems to begin with. They're cheap buildings. So offer them a better option. And it takes a little bit of work to sit there, and with that building, it was kind of the same thing. We had to sit there and figure out, how are we going to deal with the gutter? What's got to happen? Also, you got a budget to consider as well. You can't just go in there and say, hey, this is how it should have been built. We're going to need, $500,000 to do this, which that was a small job. They didn't need $500,000, but still, especially if you've never worked with an individual, you're coming in and saying, hey, look, this isn't a small problem. Seems like a small problem. You got a few stained ceiling tiles, but you need to spend $15,000, $20,000. People aren't prepared for that, not on your initial visit. So with that case, fortunately, we had a building owner that was wanted to do right by his tenant, wanted to keep them happy, and also wanted to protect his investment overall. And when you have those two things, then you can create a relationship and say, okay, this is how we like to do this is the system we're proposing. This is what we think will work best for you. And from there, you can take them through the system and explain it. And that's what I found that works best with people, is explaining the system, explaining the quality of it, what they're getting, the warranty that they're getting, versus trying to simply repair what they got, or even using a coating, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
But
right. Well, that's great. So it's you started with the best option, and sounds like you sold them on it, which is great. And you mentioned a lot of the details. The edges and the fasteners, and the actual panels themselves really don't. It's not a problem. It's all the the connections and where they all come together, and expansion and contraction, and when you, and I'm sure the photos we're seeing it now on the screen. I'm just hoping we see them now on the screen, but it really is a nice looking job. So it's a nice and clean, and it covers up a lot of sins, right? So that's great. That's awesome. So well done. Tell me about how big of a crew did you have on that job?
I believe we had 5 guys working. We were actually involved in we were roofing a high school at that time, so we didn't have a lot of time in our schedule to really do this job. So, just because of the relationship we had with the tenant, I said, okay, yeah, we'll squeeze it in somewhere. So, you're looking at the weather, looking at the work you already got in progress, and we actually set it up, and we did it on a Sunday. We did it over a weekend. We started Sunday morning and wrapped it up, and Monday morning, me and one of my guys went over there and picked up our leftover materials, and we're out of their hair. And as well, you got a business operating, and this was their office area. So especially on a metal building, a lot of noise transfers from the roof to an office when you're up
Yep.
there working and you got guys moving around and you're laying insulation and you got a generator running and welders. And so we wanted to have as little impact on their business operation as well. And so we had a clean shot one weekend and we knocked it out over a Sunday.
All right. And so you filled the flutes with flute fill insulation, right?
Yep.
Did you put a cover board on it?
My personal preference with these systems is to go a little bit heavier. I like to do an 1.5 inch or a 2 inch piece of ISO. Personally, you get a little more density, and depending on the gauge of the roof panel and the style of that roof panel, it can really help with just kind of firming and giving you a nice feel to that roof. And you're going to get better welds on your seams if you got a little bit more density to that system. If you got, especially like I don't even know if anybody's using them anymore, but for a while there, they would market the EPS cover boards, that fan fold. And I was never a big fan of those. I used it one time and it was so soft, it really affected that hot air welder, our big robot. It just kind of sank a little bit in there and didn't always get the best welds. But I like 1.5 inch or 2 inches of ISO is my preference on that.
All right. All right. Then you fastened it down, of course, with the RhinoBond plates.
Yep.
All right. And did you fasten into the purlins?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. That's great news. That's great news. Gives you tremendous holding power as opposed to just being into the panels. Did we come out and do a pull test, or you knew that was going to work?
I usually don't do a pull test on purlin fasteners unless there's just a lot of evidence of like rust, on the panels. With purlins, which on this building the purlins looked in really good shape, so I just rolled with it. And you can kind of tell too if you have, when you're putting fasteners in, you know when you're getting a good bite and when it's too soft, especially with purlins. Right. But same with, if you're using if you got a metal deck and a number 15 screw, if it's not biting well on an older building. You can feel that, and you can sometimes see it. Or if you get, your screws popping and your plates are looking funny and that screw is already starting to back out before your membrane even goes down, then you got problems. But with this, especially with the purlins, I really don't hesitate to just roll on with it.
Right. Great. So I imagine you didn't use any half sheets. These were full sheets.
Yes, on this job, we might have had one half sheet just simply for the fact that it was a smaller project. I think this was like 2,000 square feet total. So that's something we'll look at on a smaller job, is layout, just to minimize waste and excess material. All
right. All right. You got more jobs lined up like this this winter?
We don't have a metal retrofit sold yet, but we're always on the lookout.
All right. Well, that was great. It's a great story. So again, we really do appreciate the information and your ability to sell this project. And let's move on. Let's talk about Olive Branch, Mississippi. You ready? Got a question for you.
Okay.
So what do they put in the water in Olive Branch? Because looking up online, you have 7 NFL players from Olive Branch, Mississippi. You have 2 MLB players. You got an MLB umpire. You got a NASCAR driver, Ricky Stenhouse. So what goes on? I imagine Friday Night Lights must be pretty great in your town.
It is. We have, Olive Branch and just our county in general is one of the fastest growing areas in the United States. We're a suburb of Memphis, Tennessee. We have really big schools. We have a big school district. So, Olive Branch High School, last I checked, was a 6A high school. So it's a very large high school. But North Mississippi in general has a really good, really competitive football programs. And Olive Branch has done well within that. one of the schools about an hour south of us, they had a streak going. I think it was like 86 games in a row that they won, 86 regular season games. It was a
Right.
high school, and it was nicknamed the University of Batesville for a long time because a lot of their players went straight to the University of Mississippi
Excellent.
after graduating. So football is a very big deal here, no doubt. So
Yeah, I guess
but,
so. I mean, that's
all I can
insane.
say
What is
is
it?
we have I think it's an artesian well that's underneath kind of North Mississippi and Memphis. So maybe that's what it is. We got good water here.
I'm telling you, you got to ship it up. You got to bottle that stuff. So, well, that's great. That's great. Congratulations and well done. And again, it was a pleasure having you on to learn a little bit about your business and your success. And I hope that hope others are listening, and they are. And that's great. So, again, and congratulations on fourth generation. And let's keep this industry going, right?
Absolutely. We need
All
it.
right. Again, thank you very much for being on. Great job. And we'll see you on the roof sometime.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Trevor. You got it.